Picture this. You're a prisoner of war, forced to build a railway for your enemy. You're sweating under a tropical sun, hacking through dense jungle, your body ravaged by hunger and disease. This is the reality of the Burma Railway, a story that's been kind of overshadowed by a Hollywood film. While captivating it, misses the raw human cost.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Burma Railway, also known as the Death Railway, it's not just some historical footnote, it's a testament to the brutality of war and the resilience of the human spirit. We're going to dive into this story using a really fascinating mix of sources from historical accounts and personal narratives to artistic interpretations, like Pierre Boulez's novel and the iconic film adaptation, The Bridge on the River Kwai.
I feel like so many people I talk to have no idea about the real story behind that film. You know, the sheer suffering involved in building this railway for the Japanese war effort in World War II.
Yeah, it's a story that deserves to be told in its full complexity. The Japanese Empire needed that railway, a link between Thailand and Burma, to supply their troops and fuel their expansion in Southeast Asia. And to do it, they forced over 60,000 Allied POWs and over 180,000 Southeast Asian laborers into the most horrific conditions imaginable.
Over 180,000 Southeast Asian laborers. Wow, that number really puts things into perspective for me. You always hear about the POWs, but the scale of forced labor across the board is staggering.
Absolutely, and their treatment was beyond inhumane. Malnutrition was rampant, tropical diseases like cholera and dysentery spread like wildfire, and the cruelty from the Japanese guards was relentless. You have to remember, these people were forced to work in extremely dangerous conditions, hacking their way through jungle-battling monsoons, all while facing constant threats from wild animals. Death was an everyday occurrence.
It's chilling to think about. And then you have stories like that of Carl Free, the American pilot who successfully bombed a bridge along this railway. He called it Old 277, but he had no idea about the forced labor underneath.
It's such a powerful illustration of the complexities of war, isn't it? What was a strategic victory for Frey meant even more suffering for the men below, more rebuilding, more lives lost. It makes you think about the ripple effects of every action taken during a conflict.
And in the midst of all this horror, you have individuals like Jack Bridger Chalker, a British POW who risked his life to document the atrocities. He was an artist and would secretly sketch scenes of the suffering around him, hiding those sketches from the guards.
It's astounding. Can you imagine the courage it took to create art in such a dehumanizing environment? Chalker knew the world needed to see what was happening, even if it meant putting himself in incredible danger.
Speaking of danger, I read about an incident where Chalker was caught sketching two laborers. They were so emaciated, their bodies ravaged by hunger and disease. And for that simple act of bearing witness, the guards tortured him for 2 days.
It's a testament to his commitment to the truth. Chalker was determined to give voice to the voiceless. After the war, he continued to use his art, particularly his watercolors, as a powerful, lasting record of the POW experience on the Burma Railway.
But then comes Pierre Boulle, a French author, inspired by his own wartime experiences, to write a novel called The Bridge over the River Kwai. It became this huge bestseller, but caused a lot of controversy among former POWs.
That controversy stems from the fact that while Boulez's novel is a gripping read, it's ultimately a fictionalized account. His main character, Colonel Nicholson, becomes obsessed with building a perfect bridge for the enemy, almost like he takes pride in it. For former POWs like Chalker, who dedicated themselves to portraying the truth of their experience, it felt like a betrayal.
It's like their suffering was being romanticized and distorted, especially with this Colonel Nicholson character. They saw him as an insult completely different from the actual resilience and resistance they showed while facing unimaginable cruelty.
Exactly. Boulez's novel raises important questions about how much artistic license is acceptable, especially when dealing with such sensitive historical events. How do you balance creative expression with respecting the truth and honoring the experiences of those who lived it? These are big questions that go beyond just this one story.
And then to complicate things even further, you have the Hollywood adaptation of the novel.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other chapter in this story, and a fascinating one at that.
The film, also titled The Bridge on the River Kwai, was produced by Sam Spiegel. He was a major figure in Hollywood and was determined to make this into a blockbuster hit. But the British War Office wasn't exactly thrilled about the project and raised concerns about how their soldiers would be depicted.
It's understandable that they'd be apprehensive. The War Office wanted disclaimers, added clearly stating that the film was a work of fiction, but Spiegel fought hard against that. He saw the film as art, not a documentary. It's interesting to see those different perspectives clashing.
It sounds like a real battle of wills. But in the end, Spiegel did get their cooperation right.
He did, but with a compromise. He agreed to include a disclaimer, but only for screenings in London. The American release didn't have any such disclaimer.
That's so telling. It shows how different audiences and maybe different attitudes towards historical accuracy influenced how the story was presented.
It's a great example of how the context of storytelling can really impact its reception. And this film had quite the journey to the screen. They shot on location in Sri Lanka, which meant building roads through tea plantations to get to the sets. And then there was the famous tension between the lead actor Alec Guinness and the director David Lean.
Alec Guinness, who was a World War II veteran himself, right?
Yes, he had serious reservations about the character of Colonel Nicholson, but still delivered an Oscar-winning performance.
The irony. And the film itself was a huge success, winning 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for Guinness.
It cemented the bridge on the River Kwai in popular culture, but in a way that further overshadowed the real story of the Burma Railway. The suffering, the resilience, the true cost those got lost in the shadow of this fictionalized, though undeniably compelling narrative.
So where does that leave us? We have the actual history, the personal stories, and then these fictional accounts that brought the Burma Railway to the world's attention, but also distorted it in many ways.
It's a crucial question, isn't it? How do we reconcile the power of storytelling with the responsibility of representing the truth, particularly when dealing with events as harrowing as the Burma Railway? It's something we need to think about as we continue to engage with historical narratives, even those presented as entertainment.
It makes you wonder, are we truly engaging with the past? Or are we simply seeking a good story? And what does that say about how we remember and learn from history? These are questions we'll keep exploring as we delve deeper into this topic.
Yeah, it really makes you consider the weight of history and how it's portrayed.
Mm.
Before we get too far off track, we were talking about how Bouilly's novel and the film The Bridge on the River Kwai brought the Burma Railway into the public consciousness, but also sparked a lot of debate because of how they fictionalize things.
It's a tough balance, right? The film is a classic,
Yeah.
but it's important for us to remember that it's not a documentary. You know, the real-life experiences of those who built that railway, the POWs and the laborers, they were much more complex, much more nuanced, and sadly, much more horrific than what we see on screen.
Absolutely. That's why it's so vital to go beyond that Hollywood version and dig into the first-hand accounts. To understand the human cost of this project, we need to hear the personal stories of those who endured the horrors of the Burma Railway.
I completely agree. So let's talk about those experiences. What kinds of details or anecdotes can you share that might help us grasp what these individuals went through?
Well, we've already touched on Jack Bridger Chalker and his incredible act of courage in secretly sketching scenes of suffering while he was a prisoner. His art provides a unique window into the daily struggles, the dehumanization, and the sheer will to survive that defined life on that railway.
His commitment to documenting those experiences, even with the risk of torture, really highlights the power of bearing witness. It's like he was determined to make sure those stories wouldn't be forgotten.
Precisely. And Talker's story is just one among many. There are countless examples of courage, resilience, and even small acts of kindness amidst unimaginable cruelty. For instance, some POWs risked their lives to share what little food they had with those who were weaker. Others found solace in things like music or poetry, creating moments of beauty and humanity in the darkest of times.
It's amazing how the human spirit can find ways to endure even in the face of such dehumanizing conditions. Those stories show that it wasn't just about suffering. It was also about the bonds formed, the small acts of defiance, the moments of humor that help people cope with their circumstances.
That's such an important point. The diversity of experiences on the Burma Railway is often overlooked. It wasn't a monolithic experience of suffering. It was a complex tapestry of emotions, relationships, and acts of both cruelty and compassion.
Thinking about those conditions, I can't help but wonder if any of the POWs attempted to escape. It seems like a logical, even desperate course of action given the brutality they faced.
There were escape attempts, yes, but the odds of success were incredibly slim. The jungle was dense and unforgiving disease was everywhere, and if you were recaptured, the punishment was often severe, even fatal.
So escape was almost impossible. It must have felt like being trapped in a nightmare.
It was a desperate situation for many, but amidst the bleakness, there were stories of remarkable courage. One that stands out is the escape of a group of Australian POWs led by Lieutenant Colonel Albert Coates. They managed to navigate the jungle for weeks, evading capture and surviving on whatever they could forage.
Weeks in that jungle. Wow, it's hard to even imagine.
It's a testament to their determination and resilience. They eventually made contact with local resistance fighters and were rescued by a submarine, but their story, while inspiring, is an exception. Most escape attempts ended tragically.
It's heartbreaking, but it speaks to the strength of their spirit. to refuse to give up hope even when faced with such insurmountable obstacles. It's incredibly powerful.
It is. Their stories remind us that even in the darkest of times, hope and the will to survive can persevere. And that's something worth remembering as we continue to grapple with the legacy of the Burma Railway.
We've explored the historical context, the individual stories, and the fictional accounts that have brought this event to the world's attention. But where do we go from here? What's the legacy of the Burma Railway? How should we remember it?
That's a question that continues to be debated and explored. For many, the Burma Railway stands as a symbol of human cruelty, a reminder of the horrors of war and the devastating impact it has on individuals and societies.
And for the families of those who perished building that railway, it's a site of profound loss and grief, a reminder of the unimaginable suffering their loved ones endured.
Absolutely. And for survivors, it's a place that evokes a complex mix of emotions, trauma certainly, but also resilience and a determination to ensure that their stories are told and that those who were lost are honored.
It feels like there are so many layers to this story, so many perspectives, so much pain and complexity woven into the history of this railway.
You're right, it is incredibly complex. And that's why it's so important to approach it with sensitivity, to recognize the human costs, to honor the victims, and to acknowledge the ongoing struggle for justice and reconciliation.
So what can we as individuals do to keep these memories alive, to make sure that the lessons of the Burma Railway aren't forgotten?
There are a number of things we can all do. We can educate ourselves about this history, seek out and read the firsthand accounts of survivors, support organizations that work to preserve their memories, and engage in conversations about the ethical considerations of storytelling when it comes to events as sensitive and traumatic as the Burma Railway.
It feels like engaging with these stories, understanding the true human cost of conflict, might be one way to work towards a future where such atrocities are never repeated.
That's a worthy goal, and one that would undoubtedly honor the memories of those who suffered and perished on the Burma Railway. Their stories must be heard, and their sacrifices must never be forgotten.
It's incredible how the story of the Burma Railway has resonated across different forms of art. We've talked about the novel and the film, but there's also poetry, music, and visual art created by survivors and those who were deeply moved by their experiences.
Yeah, it really speaks to the enduring power of art, doesn't it? Think about the role it plays in processing trauma, in bearing witness, and in preserving these memories for generations to come.
It's like art can give a voice to the voiceless, helping us connect with history on a deeper, more emotional level.
And for survivors, creating art can be a way to reclaim their agency, to find meaning in their suffering, and to share their stories with the world. It can also be a form of catharsis, a way to process the unimaginable and find a path towards healing.
And for those of us who weren't there, art can be a powerful tool for empathy and understanding. It connects us to the human experience even in the darkest of times and reminds us of our shared humanity.
Absolutely. And it can also challenge us to confront uncomfortable truths, to grapple with complex ethical questions, and to consider the impact of our own choices and actions.
As we wrap up this deep dive, are there any specific works of art that you would recommend to our listeners who want to explore the Burma Railway further beyond the Hollywood portrayal?
Oh, there are so many incredible pieces to discover. But if I had to choose a few, I'd start with the watercolors of Jack Chalker. They offer a raw and unflinching look at life on the railway. You can find some of his work online or in museums dedicated to World War II history.
I've seen some of his paintings, and they're incredibly moving. You can almost feel the weight of the experience, the exhaustion, the despair, but also the resilience in the eyes of his subjects.
His work is truly powerful. I'd also recommend exploring the poetry and memoirs written by survivors. There's a collection called the Railway Man Anthology that features a diverse range of voices and perspectives. It offers a profound insight into the psychological and emotional toll of captivity.
I'll have to check that out. And for those who are more drawn to visual mediums, there are documentaries like The Forgotten Volunteers, which focuses on the experiences of the Asian laborers who were forced to work alongside the Allied POWs.
That's an important point. The stories of these Asian laborers are often overshadowed, so it's crucial that we acknowledge their suffering and their contribution. They were an integral part of this tragic chapter in history.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored the historical context of the Burma Railway, delved into the personal accounts of those who experienced its horrors, and grappled with the complexities of representing such a traumatic event through art and film.
And we've talked about the importance of remembering, of learning from the past, and of honoring the victims of this terrible tragedy. Their stories deserve to be heard and their memories preserved.
What's the final thought you want to leave our listeners with today?
I think the story of the Burma Railway is more than just a historical event. It's a human story. A story of resilience, of suffering, of courage, and of the enduring power of the human spirit. It's a story that deserves to be remembered, honored, and learned from. I encourage you to continue exploring, to seek out the voices of those who were there, and to reflect on the lessons of this tragic chapter in human history.
Those are powerful words to end on. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this exploration valuable, please subscribe for more insightful discussions on captivating historical events and the complex stories behind them. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.